Hey everybody, welcome to In the Red Zone. Sean Brown, Michael Johnson here. It's time for Week 11 college football picks. But before we do that, please subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, like the video, leave a comment, hit that notification bell. You will know every time we upload a new video. You're going to want that. And then also go check out OddsJam, everything you need, all the tools for the serious sports bettor. Go check out OddsJam, link in the description. All right, Week 10. I got to admit, I didn't get to watch hardly any college football. We had the last week, we had the playoffs for youth football. Had a whole bunch of stuff going on. A party, I had a going away party for a coworker. I didn't get to watch hardly anything.
Yeah.
So, I saw some highlights and things like that. But Sean, your take on what you saw?
It wasn't a crazy week. I don't think anything really just nuts happened. Clemson beat Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, I think, was up on A&M for a while, and then A&M comes kind of marching back. Mm-hmm. Texas was up on Kansas State quite a bit, and then Kansas State starts marching back and turned that into a game. That ended up in overtime. Just a field goal won it for Texas. So props to them for being one loss in the Big 12 and being on the in the top of the Big 12 right now. It's a race now between. It's kind of a three-headed race right now with Oklahoma State, with Oklahoma State beating Oklahoma this last week, and Texas. Obviously Oklahoma beats Texas. If Texas loses one more, then they're on the bottom three of that. Mm-hmm. It's just a real weird scenario where if Texas loses, it can make things really interesting for the Big 12.
Looking at their schedule, I don't know if that's going to happen.
I mean, they've got TCU this week. And then I'm not quite sure who their other. They've got TCU, Iowa State, and then Texas Tech.
Maybe Texas Tech could always. Who knows what that one.
Iowa State is going to be a night game, so a night game in Ames is always pretty tough. And then you've got Texas Tech to round it out. I mean, you've got TCU's 4-5, Iowa State's 5-4. They're fighting for bowl eligibility this week. And then Texas Tech is 4-5. So, all signs lead to them going to be in Arlington in the last regular, or not regular season, but
it's just as big of a mess in the Big Ten West. So if you look at the Big Ten East looks like varsity, and the Big Ten West looks like GA.
Well, Nebraska just gets beat by Michigan State.
I know. Iowa's still one game up in that division. It doesn't really matter because whoever wins that division has zero chance in the Big Ten championship game. I mean, that is a tune-up game for the playoffs for whoever's in that against the Big Ten West. So, USC lost again. Colorado lost again. Big one coming up this week.
And then what we didn't expect really to happen until maybe year's end is Alex Grinch gets the boot.
I was shocked.
At USC.
I did not think it was going to happen.
I
just didn't think it would happen.
I thought it was a prank tweet from the person I saw. I don't know if it was the person who broke it, but
I don't know anybody at USC. I have no information, but my gut tells me that Lincoln Riley was pulled aside. And he was said, Grinch goes or you go.
Yeah.
But we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's what happened.
Grinch got 3 years at Oklahoma. And I do kind of wonder if Josie, the athletic director at Oklahoma, was kind of in his ears saying, you got to let go of him. Mm-hmm. And he just refused to do so. Could have been one of the reasons he wanted to take off and leave and, kind of keep his band together.
Yeah.
And, so, I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see what they do defensively, I'm not sure who they've elevated to interim defensive coordinator. Did you see anything on that?
I have not seen anything on that yet.
It may be, I don't even know who's coaching on that side of the ball anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And switching gears, last thing, I call it the cheating scandal at Michigan. It continues to just more and more stuff comes out. Now Michigan's trying to blame Ohio State for snitching on them and starting the investigation. I don't care whether Ohio State did or not. I mean, if you were cheating, you're cheating.
Yeah.
Stalions resigned. First it was reported he was fired. Then it comes out he resigned. Michigan was thought to going to be suspend Harbaugh. All the Big Ten coaches met with the Big Ten commissioner on the phone. They want punishment for Michigan right now.
Yeah.
And now, the last I heard was that University of Michigan, an insider had reported that if Harbaugh gets suspended or the Big Ten does any kind of punishment to Michigan before the NCAA findings come out, they're going to take them to court and get an injunction and try to stop it. So, I don't know.
Well, isn't that if it happens, he
There's
still
so much
gets to
evidence.
coach
It
or something
happened.
like that?
Yeah, but
If he's suspended and then he basically goes and sues, I thought I heard a few years ago that in that process the coach still gets to coach, and because I think we've seen that before. The term for it's slipping my mind, but when they go to,
well, if the judge grants an injunction,
right,
because then the penalty is suspended until the end of the process. So I don't know. I will say, I mean, Michigan fans just don't seem to get it. Everyone's like, everybody steals signals. It's not illegal. That's not the problem. Stealing signals is not the problem. The problem is going and scouting in person.
Yeah.
It's what the rule is. The rule came in 1994. The purpose of the rule at the time was to cut down on expenditures and costs for universities. That's the purpose of it. Stealing signs is not the issue. I mean, if you're day of the game and you got a guy on the sideline who's a damn genius, who can instantly decipher, great. I mean, take advantage.
That's part of the game. Yeah.
But when you go in person and scout ahead of time and take a camera or a phone and record the other sideline, that's illegal.
Well,
it's just illegal.
So a few seasons ago, there was a big hubbub over Jeff Lebby, going with Tulsa and being on Tulsa's sideline. And him being allowed to be back there. He was on staff at Baylor at the time.
Right. But he wore a Baylor shirt on the sideline at Tulsa.
I thought he was wearing Tulsa gear.
No, I read, because I came back and read about all that.
Okay.
He was wearing a Baylor shirt on the Tulsa sideline. And he wasn't recording signals or anything.
Yeah.
But yes, because they played Oklahoma later on, you can't be there and do that.
Right.
You can't be there and watch it. And he got suspended 3 games for that.
Yeah.
And he wasn't recording anything.
So I wonder if it's more just widespread than what Michigan is doing. Michigan just happens to be the one to get caught, and so really, if they do try to pull an injunction, like maybe they come out and really light the candle on the whole thing and say, look, everybody's doing it. Here's our proof that this team's doing it. Here's our proof that this. But there was also.
But right now, there's no proof of any other team doing it.
Right.
That's the thing.
There was word that that other schools were paying Michigan for the information that they were getting. So and that's just that could be rumor. I heard it on sports radio. Just that.
So I don't know if that's actually illegal though. Like Michigan going and scouting a future opponent is certainly illegal.
Yeah.
Once you get the information, if you sell that to another school, give it to other coaches, is that illegal? Because I don't think it is.
If it's information that was gained illegally. It could be. I mean, it very well could be, and that school would be on the hook for any information that they got, digitally or through.
And then the NCAA, Ohio State has inquired, and it's a legit question, in the CFP playoffs, if Ohio State is playing in a semifinal, can they send somebody to scout the other semifinal, because the CFP is not an NCAA event; it's separate from the NCAA. Yeah. So does that fall under the NCAA rules?
Yeah.
I don't know, and nobody's given an answer yet. So, but a lot's going to happen. And if Jeff Lebby got a 3-game suspension for just being on the other team's sideline, I don't care what they say. There's no way that Jim Harbaugh did not know this was happening.
Right. That guy's standing behind their defensive coordinator the whole game.
And he was actually in there. Now there's a video came out. He's standing right by Harbaugh. And as soon as he's looking over there, and he's going, pressure's coming. They're blitzing. He's saying that right in Harbaugh's ear.
Yeah.
And so there's no way that you can argue that he didn't know. And on top of that, everybody at Michigan wants to say he was a lone wolf. He did this on his own. His job was to try to figure out their signals, and he did this. This guy did not pay for all those tickets out of his own pocket.
Right.
Pay for travel for people to go to those games.
Well,
There's no way.
People pulled his Venmo or Cash App history, and he's paying a lot of people for just little things, like T-shirt. I think it said he sold them T-shirts or something. But then they go and look at those people's social media, and they actually work for the university. So is he really running?
There's no way that the University of Michigan was not funding this.
Right.
And if the university is funding it, then at least one other person knows about it, and it's no longer a lone wolf, single guy.
Right.
Now it's more. If it's more than one person, it's an operation. It is.
Yeah.
And so that's what's happened. So Michigan fans are just, man, they got their heads in the sand. But he's going, and ultimately, whether he knew about it or not, Harbaugh he's the CEO of that team.
Yeah.
Everything that happens with that program is on him, and it's his responsibility.
Yeah.
So even if he didn't know, he's still responsible.
This would be a really tough thing to be able to say we didn't know, because how are you letting a GA or whatever position this kid was, why are you letting him give information and it looks normal on game day, because I'm sure you got a bunch of assistants over there saying, oh, do this, but if it's information that he's gotten, at no time did Harbaugh say, how are we so good at this? How are we so good? How did we figure out their signs so easily? It just, I don't know.
Well, that's that word, plausible deniability. But
right.
That doesn't work in college football, because the coach is ultimately responsible for everybody and everything they do.
They had to know.
So Harbaugh's getting suspended. The university's going to get punished. Rather, that means that a punishment for this year's college football playoff, I don't know.
When will that be? Will it be
because more likely it's going to be a punishment that is applied next year.
Yeah.
So and so it is what it is. All right, you ready to make some picks?
I think so. The only other thing I have is with the Bedlam game. If you watched it, OSU just like Kansas, they played better. They coached better down the stretch. They just made more plays. I mean, they had some wide receivers make some incredible catches. And say what you want about the no call pass interference in the end zone. That was, to me, the most egregious one. But don't ever let it get to that point.
Right.
Like, there were plenty of times for Oklahoma to extend the lead or to get the lead, and they just didn't. They fell flat, just like they did against Kansas. I mean,
no one or two bad calls by a referee is the difference in a ball game.
I mean, I believe he would have scored a touchdown had he not been getting prematurely tackled at that point.
I just mean, forget the bad calls.
Yeah.
You as a team
Oklahoma
have
got
several
away with them
plays
too.
throughout the whole game that could have made a big difference. And
Oklahoma
that call
got
doesn't
away.
Matter.
There were 2 drives in a row where, and Oklahoma State fans have brought this up, and rightfully so. I think it was pass interference that they just let go. But then the next drive, OSU gets away with it, or it may have been vice versa. But there was stuff all over the game. I mean, from both teams. So I think at some point they equal out. Just the only thing is in the end zone when it's so blatant that he's tackling them before the ball even gets there.
Well, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but several people I work with who were at the game, one in particular, he's as big an OU fan as you are.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, I don't want to believe in the conspiracy theories. I really don't. He goes, but I just think the Big 12 does not want Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game.
I mean, I can kind of believe that.
Because they're leaving.
But I'm not
they
saying,
don't want them there.
I'm not saying that they would go so far as to tell the refs, hey, fudge the calls here.
I don't think they need to tell the refs, because the refs know we work for the conference.
Yeah.
They know the situation.
But maybe
they're kind of like it's an understanding.
Yeah,
it's
like their judgment calls.
Rule.
Their judgment calls might go a little bit favor the other team a little bit more. Not so much. I don't think they're all in a room saying, okay, in quarter 3 you're gonna call this call or you're gonna do this. But the last couple of weeks have been pretty damning. Yeah. If you look at Kansas, Oklahoma had like 11 penalties for over 100 yards. Kansas had 5 penalties. I'd be interested to go back and look
I
at
just
the
think
two
that if you're an official working for the Big 12, and I'm not trying to question their credibility, but it's like there's a penalty. They could go either way.
Yeah.
The Big 12 team, we're going to let it slide.
Yeah.
the
'Cause
team
that would be
leaving
a
the
bad-
Big 12, you're getting a call. Here comes the flag.
That would be
That's
a
probably
rough.
what's happening.
It would be a rough look if the two teams that are leaving, one of them won.
Right.
the conference
Because
championship.
I'll tell you what, there's been some questionable officiating in the Texas games, and
Yeah,
Texas
yeah.
has just managed to survive.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's impressive that they've done it without Quinn Ewers. And
Yeah.
one last thing, and then we got to get to the picks.
Sure.
There, saw it today. Can't believe it. Don't know who's reporting it. Well, I know where it came from, but not sure who the inside source is. But today, somebody within the Texas program said that Arch Manning might be transferring.
What?
And the top of the teams that would be a likely scenario, the number one would be Ohio State.
Whoa.
So I guess there's frustration because Malik, what's his name?
Got to come in.
He's not playing that good.
Yeah.
And they still have not letting Arch have a chance at it.
Man.
Archie Manning. So there's frustration within the Manning family at what's going on at Texas.
That'd be
and
rough.
There's question, and they're questioning the Manning family. According to this source, I don't know, not this third-party information here, but according to that source, the Manning family not happy that because of that struggle that he has not at least had some snaps to try to play, and they're uncertain about his future there because there might be some disconnect between him and Sarkisian.
That'd be wild if Quinn Ewers goes to Ohio State, bolts for Texas, and then if Arch Manning, just this is just a speculation
right now because it was one source, but it was somebody inside the program.
I mean, I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibility. With the transfer portal the way it is now, you will see future superstars transfer before they're supposed to, take over. And
Manning can play in 4 games without burning a red shirt.
Yeah.
And he has not had a chance.
Man.
And that you have to question that.
Has he? I think he has played a little bit.
No, he hasn't taken a single snap
snap
this year. Nope.
Man. There's something wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Texas, they struggle with Houston after Ewers got hurt. They struggled last week with Kansas State. Malik, I can't remember the kid's last name. Murphy. Threw 2 interceptions last week. He's not playing good.
Yeah, Sark is going to have to get Manning in a room and just say, look, we're going to get you some snaps. We're going to get this figured out. Please don't leave. Because they need to go into the SEC with a sure thing at quarterback. And not saying that he definitely is, but he's the highest rated quarterback prospect they've gotten since Vince Young.
But I sat here last week or 2 weeks ago and I said, having watched his tapes for high school and knowing the competition he was playing, he wasn't playing the top division schools in high school.
Yeah, it was 2 or 3A private school.
I mean, he was, in my opinion, a 3 or 4 star, and I think the name made him a 5 star. I don't think he's as good as what he was recruited.
Yeah,
he's still capable. I'm not saying he's.
You got to think if he
capable.
was as good as recruited, he would be playing out there.
Right. So there's questions about that. So anyway. Let's get started. 15 games. Let's get these picked. Let's start off. First game, big one, big noon kickoff. Huge playoff implications here. Michigan, 3.5-point favorite at Penn State. Big noon kickoff at Penn State. 3.5, I think, is the closest spread of any Michigan game so far this year. I just, call it part of me wanting them to lose, but I do believe that, Purdue's Purdue. Michigan took care of Purdue. But Penn State's a good football team. Even though they lost to Ohio State, they're still a pretty good football team.
8-1.
And I think Penn State gets the win at home. I think that this is the first Michigan loss. Michigan has not played anybody significant all year long. And now with this whole cheating scandal thing, I guarantee you Penn State in the past few weeks has been changing up all their signals. They're prepared, and I know Purdue was supposed to be prepared too, but that's Purdue.
I will say this is a little different from what you've said about Penn State earlier on in the season.
I know.
I would have expected you to take Michigan on this one.
No, the reason is because everybody Michigan has played so far, including Rutgers, who's having a good season. Nobody has really had an offensive-defensive line big enough, strong enough to really match up with Michigan, which is why they've had those blowout wins. It really starts with the offensive-defensive line. Penn State's every bit as good, and Penn State has the depth. Nobody else really has the depth. So,
Yeah,
I knew going into it that the two teams that could beat Michigan were Penn State and Ohio State. And with everything happening, with everything looming, and if this was in Ann Arbor, I would take Michigan. But it's going to be a home game. Teams, they're going to be fired up. Penn State is not out of it yet. Penn State is not out of it. So if you end up in a situation where Penn State beats Michigan and somehow Michigan were to beat Ohio State, they all three have one loss. And you have a one-loss Big Ten team going. One of them is going to the championship game, and that winner is likely in the playoffs. So Penn State's not out of it. They have everything to play for. I will say, last thing I'll say on this, though, is that I have said, because I said this in the Ohio State game, I do give the coaching edge to Michigan.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a James Franklin fan.
Yeah, there it is.
He's a 10-win coach.
Yeah.
Nothing more. And but I'm taking Penn State in this because they're underdogs.
So Drew Aller's actually had a really good year. He's thrown for 1,895 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 1 interception. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
This late in the season, J.J. McCarthy has thrown for 2,134 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So both quarterbacks, maybe just a quarterback battle, in this game. Because both teams, neither rushing leader really pop off the page. Blake Corum, don't know if he's just been injured this year or he's rushed for 849 yards, 16 touchdowns, which that's a huge number. 16 touchdowns is massive. It's just the yardage, and I know they have, don't they have another running back?
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I'm blanking on his name. Is it Edwards, or was that a guy that? Donovan Edwards. Yes. Yeah. So he takes some of the carries. He had 8 carries against Purdue in that blowout win, going for 21 yards and 1 touchdown. So there's a little bit of some sharing. Blake Corum definitely does get a majority of the carries there, though.
Yeah.
You'd like to see, especially going against a Purdue, him averaging more than 2.9 yards per carry. He did get 3 touchdowns in the game, but I just would have expected more from Blake Corum this year, with it being his final year. But I'm going to take Michigan. I've got them just pegged as covering 3 points. I know it can get crazy there. At Penn State, so
I think it's a defensive game. It's an old school Big Ten game that's a little bit lower scoring than I think people are expecting.
Okay.
All right, Alabama is a 10.5-point favorite at Kentucky. Alabama continues to win. I guarantee you that just about the whole country is going to be Kentucky fans this week because they want the knockoff. But Alabama is finding ways to win. Basically, they're not really destroying anybody, but they beat LSU last week. I just think Alabama's a better team. 10.5 is pretty close. Could be a 9-point win for Alabama. But when I pick against Alabama in these situations, they always end up covering, and I always end up taking the loss.
So
I'm going to take Alabama cover 10.5.
I'm going to take Alabama as well. Kentucky just has kind of let us down in games that we really thought, okay, this is the game where they're going to, but they're going to do it. But
the problem is, though, this time of year, I mean, look at Maryland. They lost last week to, I forget who it was, but it was like they lost. And, Maryland does this every year. They tank.
Yeah.
Well, Kentucky isn't tanking, but Kentucky, this is a time of year where the injury bug bites you a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you don't have depth, you can't compete.
Right.
And it's been a problem for OU a little bit.
And just some context
and
there,
so,
depth like Alabama or depth like
Ohio State.
Competitive depth.
Yes, competitive depth. So Alabama clearly has better depth than Kentucky.
Yeah.
They are better equipped to overcome some injuries at key positions, where Kentucky, if you have starters to starters and everybody's healthy, Kentucky can probably pull off an upset.
Yeah.
At this time of year, when you've got some injured guys, some tweaked guys, even if they play, they're not 100%. Alabama's got guys they can sub in.
Yeah.
Kentucky does not.
Yeah.
And they can't stay competitive with an Alabama.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm taking Alabama.
Yeah, the elite teams have that depth to be able to, and I'll talk about this a little bit more when we pick Oklahoma, because I've got a couple things to say about that. I said a little bit about it last week, but Alabama beats LSU by 2 scores. They beat Tennessee by 2 scores. I believe LSU is better than Kentucky. So 10.5, really, I think this probably might go to like 13.5, closer to kickoff. I could see it rising up a little bit when it gets a little bit closer to kickoff. But I'm going to take Alabama. I think that the last 2 weeks they've kind of been on a tear, they had the bye week after Tennessee, but I just think that they're kind of finding ways to really win comfortably, and I'll take Alabama.
All right, Texas Tech's at Kansas. Kansas is a 3.5-point favorite. Texas Tech lost to, Kansas won by 7 against.
Texas Tech beat TCU.
Who's been down this year.
They lost to BYU and Kansas State the 2 weeks before that.
Yeah. If this was a home game for Texas Tech, you kind of have to think Texas Tech could have the edge, but they're not. They're going to Kansas. I mean, hopefully they've scraped up enough money to put a new goalpost up, and before the next home game.
Hey, they got that basketball money.
There's somebody at work went to Kansas. And he's a Kansas fan.
Yeah.
And they were talking about taking down the goalpost, and he's like, "Hey, we're good at it. It comes down every win." Like he goes, "We're familiar." And I said, "No, you guys just don't have any money, and you got those cheap goalposts that fall apart real quick." I said, "That's what it is. That's why they were able to tear it apart and take it to the pond and get it through the stadiums, because your goalposts aren't. You don't exactly have
lighter.
The highest paid welders in there welding the goalposts together." So, but no, Kansas is just they're at another level they haven't been for a while.
Yeah.
And even if Bean's at quarterback, they're still really, really good. And I don't think that they're going to have a problem, too big of a problem with Texas Tech. So I'll take Kansas.
Yeah, I'm taking Kansas as well. Kansas has won their last 2 games. I mean, they beat OU, and they definitely looked like the better team that day. It was rough weather, but they definitely, they prepared for that game. Mm-hmm. After losing to Oklahoma State by 7 points the week before. Mm-hmm. And then they go to Ames and beat Iowa State. And then Texas Tech just beat TCU. They lost to BYU, lost to Kansas State. And I just, all in all, I just think Kansas is a better football team than Texas Tech at this point.
Maryland's a 1.5-point favorite at Nebraska. I can't remember who they played, but I just remember looking at the scores and for both these teams and being like, what is going on?
So Penn State, then Northwestern. That's who
Nebraska
Maryland
lost to Northwestern, right? Or
Maryland lost to Northwestern.
What in the world?
Nebraska beat Northwestern 17-9.
But I've said it. This is that time of year for Maryland.
Yeah.
This is what they do.
They've lost the last 4 in a row.
It should be
all their losses have come in the last 4 weeks.
And
they won the first 5. You called it.
I know.
Actually, you called it.
They do it every year. Maryland should be a verb. They're Marylanding right now.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're tanking. I mean, it's just bad. No, I'm taking Nebraska. I can't believe Nebraska is an underdog at home. Well, Nebraska lost 2 in their game, but
both teams are 5-4. So one of these teams will get bowl eligibility this week.
It's going to be Nebraska, in my opinion.
It is at Nebraska, so you got to think 2.5.
1.5.
Oh, it is 1.5.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, initially, when I first look at this, I'm like, Maryland, duh. Mm-hmm. But then, Nebraska's won the last 3 out of their 5, and Maryland has been on a 4-game skid.
Yep.
I don't know. Losing to Michigan State, just like...
Yeah.
But do they do that 2 weeks in a row after having a 3-game win streak? I'll take Nebraska. Man, I don't like it. I really don't like it, but I'll switch my pick and take Nebraska.
And speaking of Michigan State, I don't think it's true, but the rumors are that they are nearing a deal with Urban Meyer, 5-year, $100 million.
Man,
be the highest coach. And I'll tell you who's loving that.
$20 million for a coach.
You know who's loving that? Nick Saban, because it's in his contract that he has to be the highest paid coach. So he's getting a big raise if Urban Meyer signs that contract. So
Alabama's got it.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Georgia Tech at Clemson. Clemson, a 14.5-point favorite. Clemson just comes out of nowhere. Dabo Sweeney has the guy call in his radio show, and it just triggers him.
Yeah.
They go out and they beat Notre Dame. I don't know what happened to Notre Dame. I wish I'd have watched that game, but that was shocking. All I know is when I opened the app and saw the score, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like bizarro Saturday for college football when I saw that. And so, man, I don't think they do it again. I just think 14.5 seems big.
Yeah.
They probably win, but Georgia Tech's no slouch. They're capable of hanging with anybody, at least for 3 quarters. So give me Georgia Tech to keep it within 14.5.
Yeah, Georgia Tech beats Miami this year at Miami.
Mm-hmm.
They just got a tune-up game against Virginia. No offense, but I mean that's just reality.
Of course, Miami is Marylanding right now too.
Yeah.
So.
And then they beat North Carolina.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, and Clemson gets the win over Notre Dame. But I kind of look at this as, is that, do they get all inflated? Beating Notre Dame, who's a good team.
Yeah. It was a top 20. They were top. I think they were ranked 15th.
Yeah. So do is there a little bit of false sense of security here? This should be known as the week of bowl eligibility, because there's a lot of 5-4 teams playing 5-4 teams, and these are 2 of them. So, definitely it's definitely a different Clemson team than we've seen in the last decade. It's just they're kind of going downhill, and I'm wondering if a change is necessary for Dabo Sweeney to keep his coaching pedigree, up towards the top. Because soon, if he keeps pumping out seasons like this, he's going to start going down, losing money.
Well, Tyler, who called in the radio show, instead of asking, should you be making that much money, what Tyler should be asking is, are you ready to embrace the transfer portal, or are we going to just be this way every year from now on?
Yeah.
Because that's the question.
Yeah.
Because Clemson is not getting back to the top if they don't embrace the changes in college football.
So with this game, I have a thought that Georgia Tech has the ability to stay close with Clemson and even beat them. They could.
Yeah.
If they have their best game. I mean, if they have a really solid game. Because Clemson still recruit pretty well.
They have the athletes.
And it's going to be a tough game, and it's at Clemson. But I think that Georgia Tech has some players that can kind of keep it, keep it pretty close. And Haynes King is having a great year.
Yeah.
2,330 yards, 22 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That's a high number. But Cade Klubnik isn't sitting much better with 14 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. 2,056 yards for him. So I'm going to take Georgia Tech to keep it close.
Okay. Next one. Miami's at Florida State. Florida State 14.5. Taking Florida State. Miami, I don't know what's up with you. You start off strong. I thought, man, they're continuing for the ACC. They are now pulling a Maryland. They're just losing games they should be winning. It's not even, I just don't get it. Florida State, still undefeated, everything in front of them. It's a rivalry game. There's no way they're going to have a letdown against Miami. They're going to come out swinging, home game.
You would think that.
Yeah, I think that they come out swinging. They really put Miami in their place. 20-point win, maybe.
Man. Yeah, Jordan Travis is having a heck of a year, too. He's thrown for 2,469 yards, 19 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, taking care of the football. Tyler Van Dyke, 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He's good for 2,057 yards. This is one that I'm like, will they play a solid game? Yeah. They had to go to overtime against Virginia. And then they beat Clemson in double overtime, but then they lose to NC State, who not 100% sure about NC State. They lost to Duke, they lost to Louisville, lost to Notre Dame. I mean, so they've lost to some pretty good teams. They have 3 losses on the year, so they're no slouch. This is another game where I'm just like, I want to take Florida State. It looks pretty. But I just have a feeling that next week I'm going to be scratching my head like, how did Miami keep that close? So I will take Florida State.
Okay.
There's another one I don't love because, I mean, if Miami plays just a great game and ends up either keeping it close or winning. When maybe Florida State, this is a time for some of those teams to start slipping a little bit.
Yep.
But it is at Florida State, so, man, I don't love it. I don't love that one.
All right, you ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right, next one, big one, Utah at Washington. Washington is a 9-point favorite. I'm taking Utah. What I did get to watch some of on replay was USC and Washington. And, wow, talk about no defense for either team.
Yeah.
And so, Utah was able to beat USC in part because USC has no defense. Utah is all about defense. And so, and as bad as Washington's defense is, Utah is going to be able to score some points. They'll get in the 30s again, just like they did against USC. But I think Washington's going to struggle a bit, just like USC kind of struggled with Utah. Utah is going to get after them. They're going to get after Penix. Before this game with USC, there was a couple games there where Washington wasn't really getting it done
Against
like
Arizona
they were supposed
State,
to. Arizona
State, kind of
State.
surprising right now.
So I just think 9 points is too big. I think this should have been about 3.5. I think 9's way too big of a spread for this game. So I got to take Utah.
I'm going with Washington. I think that Washington's already had their scare with with Arizona State. They did put a lot of stuff on film this last week, with their defense, but Michael Penix he's going to win the Heisman this year. I just think he will.
The odds right now are Bo Nix to win it, but because he had a couple good games that knocked him down, the Arizona State game.
He's still thrown for 3,201 yards, 26 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. They're still undefeated. Bo Nix is not undefeated.
And the Heisman is supposed to go to the best player in college football.
Yeah.
It's not a biased thing. Obviously, stats-wise, it's Penix Jr. But if you want to talk about the overall, just the absolute best player in college football right now, and I'm not saying it's Marvin Harrison Jr.
Ollie Gordon would have a good.
Marvin Harrison Jr. in my opinion is the best wide receiver in all of football, NFL or college combined. That guy, I've just never seen anybody like him before, and he's going to step on the football field and he's going to be like twice as good as Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
He is just going to light it up from day one in the NFL.
Well, he's got size too.
Oh, I know, and he's so smart, and what he does, his football knowledge and his football brain is so good. But getting back to I just think Penix Jr. and Marvin Harrison Jr. are the top 2 players in college football.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the best players who make their team, it's those 2. I really do believe that.
Well, another guy I got to shout out is Washington's leading receiver, Rome Odunze. I'm blanking on the last name. But OU wanted him so bad. We wanted him so bad. And he's gone for 898 yards, 7 touchdowns. The guy's lighting it up on the stat sheet. So I just think that Washington has more players like that can, more home run hitters, I'll say. And then with Cam Rising not playing this year, I know Barnes has come in and done a pretty serviceable job, but I just think that Washington's already had their scare and they're getting down to the finish line here. And if they just hunker down and beat these teams like they should, the playoff will be the door will be wide open for them. So I'm taking Washington.
Okay. Apologize. I'll cut that audio out. Next one, Tennessee, 1.5 point favorite at Missouri. Missouri proved with the game with Georgia, Missouri's for real. They're a really good football team. Tennessee is not that good. I can't believe that Tennessee is the favorite right now. I think 1.5 should be Missouri, especially at home. So I'm taking Missouri.
Even the matchup predictor has, which we know how flawed that can be, has Tennessee 60.7% and Missouri at 39.3%. I'm going with Missouri as well. I think that they're having a phenomenal year. They did just lose to Georgia, but they put up a fight. Within 9 points. That's respectable against Georgia. And then they did get beat by 10 points to LSU. In Tennessee, they played Alabama a few weeks ago, but then they had Kentucky, which they won. Won that game by 5 points, and then they just played UConn. getting to play these soft teams this late in the season. It just should not be possible, So anyway, I'm sticking with Missouri. I'm going to go. It's in Columbia, and Missouri still has a lot to prove this year. So I think that they go out and I think they win this game.
All right, next one. Oklahoma State is at UCF. Oklahoma State is a 2-point favorite. Boy, I wanted to take UCF really bad when I was looking at this because I think OSU has kind of a letdown. I have a feeling that, remember last year, Oklahoma State beats Texas, and then they just kind of like they spent everything
but this
that
is
time.
Such a different
it's different.
Year.
It's a different
team.
They
started bad, and then they've turned things around. They've basically given the reins to Ollie Gordon, who is so good. Yeah. He's so good. Yeah. Like OU couldn't do anything against. I mean, they corralled him a little bit in the third quarter, and he gets injured, and then he comes back like a completely different person and just like takes over.
But that guy. My feeling though, they win Bedlam, the last Bedlam. They storm the field. They tear down the goalposts. It's like such a big emotional high. And we see this every Saturday. Yeah. Teams coming off a huge win. Next week they go in and they're just flat. And so I am taking Oklahoma State to cover the 2. I am. I'm taking Oklahoma State. But I'm not going to be surprised if they go in and lose to UCF in Florida because it's just hard to stay at that level emotionally and mentally every single week.
Yeah.
And so I could see them having a letdown.
I'm trying to find the.
But they are still fighting for a Big 12 championship because right now they're number 2. And so right now they're heading to the Big 10 championship game against Texas if they win out.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the some defensive stats for UCF. I'd like to know how much they're giving up in the run game per game. I don't see that. I should have been a little bit more.
And UCF just got drilled at home against West Virginia. So, I mean, it's not like they're playing well or anything.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing any defensive stats here, but anyway, I just from what I saw from the skill position players for OSU, I mean Braylon Presley was really impressive, and then I think he was number 10. I don't remember his name, but he was just catching stuff, just plucking balls out of the air like crazy. Mm-hmm. I mean, he had a one-handed tip to himself. That was really impressive. I think OSU keeps it going. I think they don't want to, give up this spot that they're in right now, number 2 in the conference. Yeah. And they every bit think and deserve to think that they're going to be in Arlington at the end of the year. So I think that they got to prove, nationally if they want to get a good bowl game. Yeah. Because they're only 5-1 and they have 2 losses. One was to South Alabama, so that doesn't count against the conference standings. So, they're looking pretty good heading into the last part of this season, and I think they keep it going.
Okay. Ole Miss is at Georgia. Georgia 11.5-point favorite. Georgia, I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how I pick. I'm going to lose that pick. Because Georgia, they're either going to cover when I don't cover, pick them to cover.
Just pick what you wouldn't.
Well, Ole Miss's only loss, I believe, is to Alabama right now. They beat Texas A&M, is that right, last week? I think Ole Miss is going to keep it within 11.5. I really do. Their offense is good enough to do that.
Then pick Georgia.
So I'm picking Ole Miss as the underdog, so that means Georgia's going to win by 12. So
maybe I should take Georgia.
Maybe you should. You should pick opposite me if you want to get that pick right, because I will get this one wrong.
Well, I feel like
but I'm
Ole Miss is one of those teams for me where I think I haven't figured out, and then they don't cover. It is at Georgia, 10.5.
11.5.
11.5. It's gone down a little bit, but we lock it in at 11.5. I'm gonna go with Ole Miss. I'm gonna say they keep it a little close. Throughout the weeks, I'd said that Georgia was 1-5-1, I think at one point, and then they were 2-5-1. I don't remember if they covered this last week.
They did not, because I picked them to cover against Missouri, and they did not.
Okay, so I'm gonna take Ole Miss. They're just not trending very well against the spread. Yeah. And I'll keep it at that.
They're going to do what they did to Kentucky and go out and score 55 points and beat them 55-10, something like that. Yeah, I mean, it never fails. I mean, it's the worst team for me to pick right now. All right, West Virginia is at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, 12.5-point favorite. This one is a 6 or 6:30 game. ABC, I believe.
And I believe had OU won, I believe they would have put them back at 11 a.m.
They would have.
Yeah.
It would have been one of those. Because now I think Texas is early game against TCU.
No, it's 6:30.
Is it TCU
Yeah.
is? Okay. All right. Well, anyway, back to this one. Listen, West Virginia's been on a roll, and nobody's really had an answer for them. They're going to come into Norman. Not saying they're going to win. 12.5, way too big of a spread. OU coming off 2 straight losses. Like, they got to figure some things out too, and right the ship, especially on defense.
Yeah.
I got West Virginia covering.
I do too. I'm going to take West Virginia as well. 12.5 just seems, Oklahoma has not covered since the Texas game.
Yeah.
They were 6-0 on the year, and I tweeted out, I don't know how many times, not a lot, but I can't remember the last time they were 6-0 against the spread. Just doing because they would always lose an early game, and then that's when Lincoln Riley came up with championship November, and he was solid through November. I mean, his teams were, for a long time, did not lose in the month of November. But this is a different team, and they've lost a lot of key players on defense, namely Danny Stutzman being the quarterback of their defense. He's the one that helps them get aligned. He's the one making the calls out there. And his absence, as well as Gentry Williams, probably their best cornerback right now. It's just they are struggling when those guys go out. When their ones go out, their twos are serviceable, and I think I said this last week. They're just not good enough yet. This is where we talk about competitive depth, where you have your twos coming in now starting, and then their threes behind them just aren't as good as it being, their ones playing and then their twos just backing them up.
Or it might not be they're not good enough. They just haven't developed enough to be able to play.
Right, sure.
So,
yeah, they got a lot of young guys. I mean, Josiah Wagner and Makari Vickers had to come in, later in that game against OSU. And it really kind of showed. I mean, you saw mistakes being made. I mean, to get 30 yards in penalties, and one of those was Brent Venable, you just cannot run out on the field like that, out to the numbers, yelling at a ref. Granted, the call was, it was a little iffy, I'll say that. But you just can't do it. You can't do it. You have to maintain your composure, and we see now why Brent Venables had a get-back coach when he was at Clemson, or else he would have been getting 15 yards. But had they not gotten the pass interference right there, he's not out on the field yelling, what do you whatever. And then there was another bad call later on in that drive that, or maybe not bad, but just something that maintained the drive for OSU.
They need to get the strength and condition coach to stand behind Venables.
Yeah,
they
Jerry
need
Schmidt,
a tether to Venables' belt so he can't even move.
I've told my dad this because we talk OU football all the time. This might be the most undisciplined team I've seen from a Lincoln Riley or Brent Venables team. They're having bad penalties at key points in the game that could go towards what we were talking about officiating earlier. They're not going to get the benefit of the doubt on a lot of these.
Nope.
So they're going to have to play.
They have to play so far above that they take the officiating out of it.
Right. Yeah.
Which
and they're not doing
dominate.
Yeah.
And they're not doing that. Right?
Yeah. So I'm taking West Virginia. I just think it's still uncertain. I know Danny Stutzman was suited up. He had his helmet. And normally in the past, if you have your helmet, that means you're good to go.
Yeah.
When you get your helmet taken away, you're not. You stay on the sideline and you're not going. But he wore that helmet for a majority of the game and tried to go. And I guess that morning when they got there to do warm-ups, I don't know if it was an ankle injury or knee injury.
But there we go back to depth. They don't have anybody who can step in for them.
Right, yeah. And they do have a couple of really good young linebackers, Kip Lewis, Lewis Carter, and then we've heard of a couple other guys. They were supposed to have like 6 linebackers who could come in and play at any moment's notice, but it's a whole lot different when that main mouthpiece from your defense goes out and is not on the field, making sure that everybody's lined up where they need to be and getting the calls in at the time, because Brent Venables waits till the very last second he can to call that defense. He waits to see what the offense is going to do, and then he tells his defense. And at times, they're standing there looking at the coaches, and the ball's being snapped. It's like, get your guys ready to go. Just get up, get ready to go, get the call in. It's just it's not looking good for Oklahoma at this point, and I just think that I don't know. I hate to say that they continue to skid this week, but I haven't seen anything that leads me to believe otherwise.
Okay, next one. Michigan State's at Ohio State, 31.5-point favorite for the Buckeyes. This one in primetime, I believe, on NBC. This is a game that was set before the season. So this was already set as a primetime game for NBC because Ohio State's one of the biggest draws in all college football. That's why it's there. It's not going to be a competitive game. Buckeyes are easily going to cover 31.5. Honestly, Michigan State might get shut out. They may not put a point on the board, or it's just a field goal. They just don't have an offense that can compete with that Buckeye defense. The only way that I think they're really going to score is just a boneheaded mistake play. It was one big play, or late in the game,
like
the Buckeyes start putting in third string guys, and Michigan State manages to get a score. Otherwise, and if that happens, 48-10 score, something like that. Maybe 52-10.
Yeah.
I think the offense is going to have a heyday. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a Heisman night. This is one where Kyle McCord, he's getting a lot of pressure from OU fans. Like stats wise, he's okay, but he's not balling out like we expect Ohio State quarterbacks to do, like they've done in the past 10 years. He's not playing at that level. This is going to give him a chance to ease some of that pressure and go out and have a big game.
Yeah.
But Michigan State, they can't compete right now.
Yeah.
They just can't.
I've got Ohio State as well. I think Nebraska probably lost more than Michigan State won.
Right. Next one, Texas, 9.5-point favorite at TCU. No word on if yours is back yet. It could be this game, could be the next game. Right now with Malik Murphy, they're iffy. And like we talked about earlier, maybe we finally get to see Manning. I think they got to play him. If Murphy's struggling, they got to put him in. They got to give the kid a chance. They have to do it. We're going to see what he's. TCU has been a huge disappointment this year.
Yeah.
Chandler Morris isn't even playing. He must be hurt.
No, he's gone for in the last few weeks.
Yeah, because he didn't play last week. So I think he's hurt, and I don't think he's playing.
Josh Hoover came in through 353 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
Yeah. Texas's defense has really kind of kept them in the games. They've been winning by close scores. Toss up here for me.
I have a feeling about this game. I'm
taking TCU because it's home. That is a rivalry.
I don't think that TCU's gonna win necessarily, but something in my gut tells me that TCU is gonna keep it close. I definitely think Kansas State is better than TCU, and I say that because that game just went to overtime and Texas had to win on a field goal. But if Quinn Ewers is not able to go, Chandler Morris not playing, that kind of gives me some pause. So. I don't know. I'm going to take TCU.
Okay, I don't ever do this. It's rare. I'm switching my pick. I'm taking Texas.
Okay. I'm
sitting here and just my gut is like, this is going to be one of those where come Saturday, I'm like, why in the hell did I take TCU? Like everything tells me like I have that gut feeling. I don't know. I don't feel good about it, so I'm switching to Texas.
I think Texas is going to win. I think they're head and shoulders above TCU. It's at TCU. I don't know. I have a feeling that TCU is just
goes out and wins 35-5 or 35-6 or something, 35-10, and I'm sitting there like, what? Why did I take TCU? Like so. That's my.
I could see that. Yeah, I could totally see that. I could see Texas blowing them out. I could. Yeah. I just have a feeling that TCU is gonna play the best game of their year and keep it close.
All right, let's move on. Florida is at LSU. LSU is a 13.5-point favorite. LSU just lost to Alabama. It was close. It was tied for a while, and then Alabama pulled away at the end. Florida has just looked bad.
Well, did Daniels get knocked out of the game?
Yes, he got hurt in the game. and I don't know if he's going to be back.
Was that the hit where he took the helmet to the chin and people were calling for targeting and there was no call on it?
I just know he got knocked out of the game. I didn't see the hit.
There was a big hit. I don't know if this was the same one, but there was a big hit where he took somebody's helmet just straight to his chin, and the defensive player didn't launch or anything like that, but his helmet did hit. I mean, he put his face mask right in his chest. It didn't have all the signs of a targeting. It just, he kind of went and bear hugged him, but he got him where he was a little lower, and I didn't see like the end if he landed on him or anything, but I didn't really see targeting in that.
Yeah. So it's being played at LSU. Florida is just, I mean, Billy Napier. Honestly, the AD at Florida is probably out, probably before the end of the season. I think it's just been a disappointment. I'm taking LSU to cover 13.5.
Yeah, I'm taking LSU as well. I think just with, having to play Alabama at Alabama, sticking with them for a little while, but then but Florida has just been so disappointing this year. I just think LSU's that much better than them.
Speaking of big hits, real quick, popped up on my Facebook feed. Don't remember the team. It's not a team. It's not a big team we follow every week. There was a play. The punter goes to punt the ball. It gets blocked, tipped up in the air. He catches his own punt, takes off running down the sideline, and the defender came flying in so fast it looked like light speed, and put his helmet down, and he hit the punter in the face mask, and it literally, the punter just laid there like he was almost dead, and there was a picture of the face mask off his helmet, and it was completely smashed in.
Oh my gosh.
It was one of the hardest hits I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
He got blasted. So anyway, all right, last game, USC at Oregon.
Everybody already
is
knows.
A 15-point favorite. Mama Williams needs to bring the bassinet and the bottle and the pacifier and bring the puppy to Oregon, because Caleb's going to need his little puppy dog, because he's going to be upset and crying after the game. USC has no chance to win. It's another loss for USC, but I am taking USC to stay within 15. I am doing that, yes.
I mean, Oregon has blown out Cal. They blew out Utah.
I think, in my opinion, I don't know who's going to be the interim defensive coordinator, and that person's not going to fix everything. I'm not saying that but that person is, I believe, going to have some schemes and things that nobody's seen all year long that is going to catch Oregon a few times. And I think USC's defense plays marginally better. And you know what Caleb Williams and the offense can do. Yeah. And yes, I just made fun of Caleb Williams. And I made fun of him because last year when Max Duggan was at the podium crying, Caleb Williams tweeted out that video with LOL in all caps.
Yeah.
And then he goes in the stands. I mean, he's bellowing, crying like a little baby in his mom's arms.
Yeah,
and I just think that's ridiculous that he made fun of Max Duggan for that.
First off, and I've seen several people with this with this same take. I think you should not have cameras on these players when they're having emotional. If he's on his bench, fine. Sure. Don't go follow a player when he goes up into the stands to hug his mom.
But when you're the Heisman, you won the Heisman last year. You're expected to win the Heisman this year. And it's an image thing, because it matters when you're talking about Caleb Williams being potentially the first pick in the draft. And this is a guy who this year, when they win, he's all smiles, shaking hands with the other team. When they lose, he won't even go shake hands.
Yeah.
He's just. And it looks bad.
Yeah.
They did the same thing, and I know.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
But LeBron James, with 5 minutes to go in the game, walks off the court and leaves his team. It's a bad look.
That's the flip side. Is yes, I don't think that cameras should just follow these players everywhere they go. Let them have a human moment for a second. But it is.
But they're also getting paid now.
It looks kind of weak.
It does
to go and just ball in your mom's arms. I mean, it's a game, I get that you're competitive. I understand that these kids learn. I say kids because they start as kids, with their dads out at 4:00 in the morning doing training and just molding these kids into football players. And all they know from the time that they can remember is wanting to win games, just whatever sport. But you know, it's
And
just
and Caleb Williams wanting ownership in whatever team drafts him.
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah.
and listen, my take when I saw that video of him with his mom, my first instinct was, and I'm probably right, is this is a kid who's been told how great he is his whole life, has probably never lost,
Yeah.
and he can't handle it. He's never had to deal with disappointment in his life.
Yeah.
Because he's always been told how great he is. His parents probably gave him everything. And so
and
life
two,
is kicking him in the teeth right now. And that's the way it works.
look at last year. You know, they win, what, did they win 11 games last year?
Mm-hmm.
They, you know, they have a pretty good year. They don't make it to the playoffs. He wins the Heisman. And then he comes back and he thinks, this is the year. This is it. This is what we're making it. We are destined to make it to the playoffs. And then it just doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
At all. One of the best players to come through college football, maybe ever, and just doesn't ever play in a conference championship game or the playoffs. I mean, whatever to the playoffs, not even a conference championship game. Like that's crazy to me.
Well, that guy needs to. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. Grow some stones, because when you get the NFL, you don't get undefeated seasons.
Yeah.
Losing is part of it, and you got to know how to lose, and you got to be able to handle it. And right now he can't, and I don't think he's ready for the NFL.
I'm so sorry. We've got my daughter, Emmy. Come on. Give me 1 second.
We're almost done. Go. All right.
Let's just we can end
Okay,
it.
we're done. So anyway, that's our take. So you're taking Oregon.
Yeah, I'm going to take Oregon.
I got USC.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. Like the video, leave a comment, hit the notification bell. You'll know every time we upload a video. Go check out OddsJam. Link in the description. And we're going to get the kids shuffled out of here. And good luck. We'll see you next week.